Media.
The ground shook for less than a minute, but in that time, lives were shattered forever. On the 28th of March, a 7.7 magnitude earthquake rocked Myanmar's Mandalay region. As of now, over 3,500 lives have been confirmed lost, and the numbers are still rising with every hour. More than 5,000 are injured, many critically, and hundreds remain missing beneath the rubble. But this isn't just about one quake. Since that initial shock, Myanmar has been gripped by relentless aftershocks, worsening storms, and political violence. Each factor is compounding the suffering, creating one of the most complex and catastrophic crises in recent memory. In this video, we break down everything: the seismic science, the collapse of infrastructure, the brutal weather, the civil war's deadly interference, and whether there's any hope in sight for the people of Myanmar. Stay with us. At 4:38 p.m. local time on the 28th of March, the ground beneath central Myanmar ruptured violently. The quake, centered near the Sagang Fault, a major tectonic boundary, struck with a magnitude of 7.7. It was shallow, just 17 kilometers deep, amplifying the surface, shaking and damage. Entire communities were leveled in seconds. Cities like Mandalay and smaller rural towns suffered catastrophic structural failures. Older, unreinforced masonry buildings crumbled. Schools, temples, markets gone. In some villages, over 80% of buildings were destroyed. The quake hit during peak activity hours, when people were commuting or working, resulting in a tragically high number of casualties. In some places, roads split apart, trapping vehicles. Key highways and bridges collapsed, cutting off already remote communities. Hospitals in the region, already under-equipped due to years of underfunding and civil conflict, were pushed far beyond capacity, with over 5,000 reported injuries and only a limited number of emergency facilities. Medical workers were forced to treat patients outside in parking lots, under makeshift tents, or not at all. Just 12 minutes after the initial quake, a 6.7 magnitude aftershock hit. This wasn't just a tremor, it was a second disaster. Buildings that had barely stayed up collapsed completely. People fled into the streets, only to find themselves amid fresh chaos. Since then, over 280 aftershocks have rocked Myanmar. On the 29th of March, a 5.1 quake struck southwest of Naypyidaw. On the 30th of March, another tremor shook the northwestern Mandalay region. Even into April, the shaking has continued, with the latest significant aftershock of 5.0 magnitude hitting near Mandalay on the 1st of April. These aftershocks aren't just terrifying, they're deadly. They keep rescue teams from entering unstable buildings. They cause fresh collapses, claim new lives, and prevent families from returning to what's left of their homes. As if the seismic catastrophe wasn't enough, central Myanmar was slammed by severe weather just days after the earthquake. A strong tropical system formed over the Bay of Bengal, pulling in moisture and unleashing days of intense rainfall. Displaced survivors, many of them sleeping in open areas or under temporary tarps, found themselves soaked and freezing. Entire camps were submerged. Access roads already cracked or broken were washed out by mudslides. In hilly regions, landslides buried roads and cut off villages once again. Violent winds grounded helicopters delivering aid, while flash floods swept through low-lying areas, further delaying rescue efforts. Medical tents were torn apart, clean water sources were contaminated. The weather turned an already life-threatening situation into a public health nightmare. Doctors are now warning of a rise in waterborne illnesses, respiratory infections, and hypothermia among survivors, especially children and the elderly. Myanmar has been gripped by civil conflict since the 2021 military coup. The most devastated areas from the quake are also some of the most politically unstable regions held by ethnic armed organizations and resistance groups. The military, which controls large swaths of the country, has imposed strict access limitations on both domestic and international aid workers. Humanitarian convoys face delays at military checkpoints. Some are turned back altogether. In many frontline zones, fighting continues as people lie injured and starving. This has created what the UN calls a humanitarian black hole regions where no aid is reaching. Children are going without food. Families are drinking dirty floodwater. There are credible reports that in some towns, not a single medical team has arrived. Local volunteer groups, operating on foot or motorbike, are often the only hope for many trapped civilians. But even they face constant threats from both the military and rebel factions. Despite these challenges, help is coming. The United Nations launched an urgent appeal for aid, estimating that up to 28 million people could be indirectly affected by the disaster due to economic ripple effects, displacement, and infrastructure collapse. Thailand and India sent early response teams equipped with search dogs, excavation tools, and mobile clinics. Taiwan and Japan followed, contributing highly trained urban rescue units and millions in emergency funding. China sent plane loads of supplies, including water filtration systems, portable shelters, and medical gear. The United States pledged $9 million in initial relief and promised logistical support for aid corridors. The European Union has activated its Humanitarian Aid Office, ECHO, and is coordinating with NGOs already in Myanmar. ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, pushing for a regional relief corridor and calling for a temporary ceasefire to allow life-saving assistance through. But responders are unanimous. It's not enough. The scale of destruction is enormous, and aid is being blocked at every turn. In the face of destruction, this vast words can feel small, but silence is worse. We speak now for the mother who digs through rubble for her missing daughter, for the doctors working by flashlight without medicine, for the volunteers delivering food under gunfire, and for every child who survived the quake only to face cold, hunger, and fear in the days after.